Hey everyone, and welcome. So, what if I told you that the secret to getting more done wasn't about more discipline or more grit or grinding yourself into the ground? What if it was actually about feeling good? We're going to dive into Ali Abdaal's really revolutionary idea where feeling good isn't something you get after you finish your work. It's the very fuel that helps you do it in the first place. For so long, we've all been sold this idea of hustle culture, right? That you have to push through the pain to be successful. But where does that really lead? For a lot of us, it just leads straight to burnout. This whole approach challenges that idea, and it suggests a much more sustainable and honestly, a way more enjoyable path forward.
All right, so here's a quick look at what we're going to cover. We'll start with the big problem, what he calls the productivity paradox. Then we'll get into the feel-good solution. After that, we'll break down the three key parts of the system: how to fuel your energy, how to finally unblock procrastination, and of course, how to make it all last.
So let's kick things off with this paradox. You know the traditional advice, just work harder. But it so often backfires, right? It just leaves us feeling completely exhausted and, ironically, less productive. It's this vicious cycle that I think way too many of us are familiar with.
Okay, so if grinding it out doesn't work, what's the alternative? Well, this is where the revolution comes in. Abdal proposes this really radical shift in how we think, and it's all backed by some pretty solid psychology and neuroscience. It's about putting our well-being right at the center of our productivity, not as an afterthought. Now, this slide right here is where the entire script gets flipped. The old way of thinking says, I'll be happy when I finish this project, when I get that promotion. But the new feel-good way argues that feeling good, those positive emotions, are the very things that drive success. Think about it. When you actually enjoy what you're doing, productivity just kind of happens.
So, how do we actually put this into practice? Well, the very first step is to fuel our energy. Let's dig into the three key pillars that make this whole system work. And believe it or not, the first energizer is play. I mean, think about how kids learn. It's all through curiosity and adventure and just trying things out. At some point, we're taught that we have to be serious to be productive, but this method is all about bringing that playful spirit back into our work.
So how do we actually do that? Well, first, get curious. Don't just try to memorize things. Aim to really understand them. And this next one is a game changer. Reframe your failures. They're not dead ends, they're just data points. Which leads to this idea of acting with sincerity, but not seriousness. It just adds this lightness that helps you stay engaged and yeah, even laugh when you make a mistake.
Okay, our second energizer is power. Now, this isn't about being bossy. It's all about building up your own sense of confidence and control over what you're doing. Because when you feel capable, the work itself feels good, and that helps you do it even better. Building this power can start with something as simple as positive self-talk. You gotta be your own hype team. You can also use what's called the confident switch. Basically, you act as if you're confident. You fake it till you make it. You can also learn from watching others succeed. Or even better, teach a concept to someone else. It's called the protege effect, and it forces you to understand things on a much deeper level. And crucially, just focus on what you can actually control. And the final piece of the energy puzzle is people. Let's be real. Life is just better when you have good people around. That positive human connection, it's a massive source of energy and a huge boost for our mood and our productivity. You've heard this saying, right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose them wisely and try to shift your mindset from seeing people as competitors to seeing them as comrades. When you cheer for the people around you, not only do you build better relationships, but the act of supporting them actually makes you feel good too. It's a total win-win. Okay, so we're energized. Awesome. But what happens when we still get stuck? You know what I'm talking about. Part 2 is all about unblocking, and it tackles the 3 big emotional blockers that cause procrastination: uncertainty, fear, and inertia. So first up is uncertainty. When we're confused or just unclear about what we need to do, we put it off. The typical advice is just do it. But that's like telling someone who's depressed to just cheer up. It doesn't work. The real key is to figure out why you're feeling bad about the work in the first place. To get that clarity, first use the 5 whys method. Just keep asking why until you get to the real root of the problem. Then, set what Abdal calls a nice goal, and we'll talk about what that means in just a sec. And finally, if you don't know when you're going to do something, chances are you won't. So be specific. Put it on your calendar.
so what are these nice goals? Think of them as a friendlier alternative to those super rigid SMART goals. They're near-term, so you're focused on what you can do right now. They're input-based, meaning you focus on the process you can control, not some far-off outcome. They're controllable. And finally, they're energizing. They actually integrate the play, power, and people stuff we just talked about.
All right, the second blocker is a huge one. Fear. Fear of failure, fear of what people will think. It's such a powerful reason to procrastinate. And the solution isn't to get rid of the fear, because that's pretty much impossible. It's about building up the courage to face it head on.
This quote points to a really cool psychological trick for building that courage: adopting an alter ego. By kind of stepping into another character, we can tap into a level of confidence that we might not feel we have on our own.
This is actually called the Batman effect. And here's how you do it. Just think of a role model. It could be a real person, a fictional character, anyone you admire. Take a second and really imagine you are them. How would they carry themselves? What would they be thinking? And then you tackle your task with that borrowed confidence.
And our final blocker is inertia. I mean, you know Newton's first law, right? An object at rest stays at rest. It's so true for us too. When you're doing nothing, it is incredibly easy to just keep doing nothing. The biggest challenge is just getting started.
So how do you break through that? Well, the simple but crucial answer is to just start. Anywhere. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make it as easy as possible to begin by getting rid of any little obstacles in your way. And remember to celebrate every tiny win to build that momentum. And maybe most importantly, if you do end up procrastinating, just forgive yourself and move on. Beating yourself up about it is probably the least motivating thing you can possibly do. All right, so we're energized, we're unblocked, but how do we make all of this stick for the long haul? This third and final part is all about creating a system that actually prevents burnout. Sustaining this system really comes down to three things. First, you have to consciously conserve your energy. Second, you need to find ways to truly recharge your batteries. But the most powerful tool of all is the third one: alignment. This means really taking the time to figure out what matters to you, your core values, and then connecting your daily work back to them. When your work feels like it's a part of who you are, motivation isn't a struggle anymore. That connection is the ultimate defense against burnout. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question to think about. It doesn't have to be some huge life-altering change. Maybe it's just reframing one small mistake as a data point. Or maybe it's just trying to act with a little more sincerity in a meeting. What's one tiny thing you can do today to make your productivity feel just a little bit better?